Hi everyone, it's Robin, the Artsy Bohemian. I'm here in my studio in Los Angeles, California, and I'm going to be showing you how to make this stacked envelope on a file folder. I had asked you guys what you wanted me to show you, and you overwhelmingly wanted me to show you this, and also the way I paint inside a book. So that'll be coming up. And so I'm excited because I have several tutorials to last me for the next month probably to show you guys, and they all have to do with making a junk journal from file folders. So I had showed you what that entailed in the last video, so if you want to check that out, go ahead. So this is not my idea. I saw this initially from a gal. I put her link down at the in the last video that I made. Her YouTube is Burlap and Daily Bread, I believe, and she was using my Porch Prints digital kit from Grandma's Attic, and it was really pretty. And then she had mentioned that she learned the tutorial from another gal named Dawn. Also, I'll have the link down below for that. And so that's where I saw how she constructed it. Mine looks nothing like theirs because we're going to be using old junk mail or just old envelopes that you might have. And that's what this one is. I know lots of you don't have access to vintage envelopes. These are super old, like 100 years old. A lot of these are. So what we're going to be doing is using junk mail, and then maybe, you know, a couple new envelopes that you might have. So this is, I had finished this from the last time you saw this. So it's just a lot of just different collages that I did. I didn't really want to cover up how cool the original envelope was. So this one's from 1940, and I love this font here. That they wrote down. It's to Pasadena, somewhere in Pasadena. And I just glued some lace and some images, and I made little notebooks to go inside these little envelopes, and I'm going to show you how to do this. This is a newer envelope, but this one has a little tuck in it for little journaling cards, and then a little tag here, and I just did a collage with some old laces and stuff. This one is really old too. I had gotten a bunch of these from a flea market, and it looked like they were probably for somebody's office. It says the War Department, for them to send out correspondence to, you know, Bill or whatever, but they were never used. And so I also just did some collage on this one. And because these are pretty old, I really had to make sure I reinforced them so that they wouldn't tear. So yeah, this one's not too fragile. Again, I just made another little notebook. And I had to, it started ripping, so I did have to reinforce it a little bit. So if you are using really old envelopes, you might just have to make little band-aids with pieces of lace or little pieces of paper. And then I made a spot here to tuck a tag. And this one's from 1919, really old. So I didn't even use this as an insert. I just kind of put a coat of clear gesso on it to kind of you know, reinforce it. And then there were little tears, so I just added, you know, some old papers here and there. And I did make a little spot here to tuck some papers. And then this one's also old. This is from 1926. So I get a lot of these from flea markets, if you're wondering. You can look on eBay as well. I had done a series where I was painting a rose a day. In fact, this is one of them right here, except that this is a copy of it. And I wanted to do it on old envelopes. So I would go to my local flea market and pick up old envelopes from this guy, a vendor there that I go to all the time just to get vintage paper ephemera. So it might be something you might want to play with, but like I said, today I'm going to show you what you can do with stuff that you would already have at home. I just wanted to flip through this and show you what I had done. And then this opens, I didn't finish this yet. This will be eventually be where I'll put signatures for paper, but I'm not going to do that just yet because I wanted to concentrate on the envelopes. Never ceases when you are getting ready to do a video, your voice goes out, so it's really annoying. So what you're going to do is you're going to use a file folder for your base. The gals that I saw do this did not do that. They used like a folded over piece of cardstock, so you can do that as well. And then I sewed the edges on the sides here. If you don't have a sewing machine, you can just glue it. And I'm going to go ahead and fold this because this is going to be my base. And another thing they did was, and you can do this too, is if you're just going to be using this as a single journal, you can score and make a little tiny spine if you want to. So you could make a 1/2-inch spine if you wanted to. But I'm not going to do that because this is going to be part of a larger journal. It's going to be a signature in itself. So do that first. The next thing you're going to do is, this is literally just junk mail or envelopes that I've had for a while. You know, when you get somebody sends you a card, and I always save really pretty cards or envelopes, and that's what this is. So the key here is you want to get lots of different sizes. So literally, this is one size. This is new. This was from Target. So some of you probably got some of these when they had them. This is completely random. Like I said, you can use whatever you want, but keep in mind you want to keep them in different sizes. And the one I did here for the sample, I just used 4 envelopes. This one I'm going to do 6 envelopes, so there's going to be 3 on each side. So you can do that. You can do 5 if you want to. You can just do 2 if you want to. So those are those 2, and then this is what I've had this really pretty stationery for a long time, so I thought I would add that because it's kind of pretty. And this is a coin envelope that I coffee dyed. This is junk mail. You can use all junk mail if you want to, and this is also junk mail that I coffee dyed. So what you want to do is you're going to kind of situate them the way that you're going to want them. And you don't, typically, you wouldn't really want them to be taller than your base. And it pretty much fits right on there. So you can kind of see what it'll look like once we glue everything down. And I'm going to show you how to do that. So I might do this. I just kind of like how there's all different layers. So think about that. There's going to be a right side and a left side. And you're going to start with the left side. It doesn't really matter. You can start with the right or the left. But I'm going to start with the left side. And I'm going to, you do want to, let me just double check this again. I want to make sure that I am gluing them down the way that I want them to lay. So this one might put this one up like this, and then you can pin them if you wanted to with a safety pin. I mean, you know, a paper clip if you want to, just so you know where everything's going to lay. So I kind of like that look right there. So I'm gonna kind of, you know, pin them so I know where they're gonna go. You could even mark it with a pencil. because what you're going to do now is you're going to glue each flap onto itself. So I'm just going to undo this here. So they're all going to stick together like this. And I'm going to do it so that they're all glued down, but I just kind of want to tack it down so I know where it's at. And you know how fast this glue dries, so you don't have to worry about that. And then the same for here. Don't glue the inside one down just yet. So that's what gives it this this ability to open up like this. See? Isn't that cool? Like I said, it's not my idea. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I've got them tacked down. Now I just want to make sure that this is glued down too. So all I did was I glued this one to this side, and then this one is also glued to the last one. This right here, the last envelope that I have on here, is going to be glued down to the base when we're ready to glue everything down. And then once I do this other side as well, once everything is glued down, then I'm going to use some decorative paper to put down to cover all of this. So let's go ahead and finish this up on here. This looks like it might be done. And let's see here. Glue on this here. But before you glue these down to the base, you want to put the ties down. So we have this tie here, and this gets glued down first before you glue down your envelopes. So you're going to glue down ties to tie everything together, the stack of envelopes, and you're also going to glue something down on the base on the front and one on the back so that you can tie your journal together. This looks like a lot more complicated than it is because there's so much going on, and I think that's why I really like it. I love the fact that there's all these ways to open it and flip it open. So just kind of, you can eyeball it if you want to figure out where the center is. Another thing that one of the gals did was she put ties on the bottom and the top as well as on the side, so it tied kind of like an old-fashioned way to tie books together. So I like this string that sometimes I don't use the string on the tags, those manila tags that you can buy, and these worked out perfect. They're the perfect size, and I'm gonna put one on either side. So, the way that these open is not how you might think, or at least this is how I thought. You're not going to be inserting things on the inside here because it's too difficult. You'll probably rip your envelope. So what you're going to do is you're going to cut just a sliver of the envelope where you want to insert things, because we are going to, that's where we're going to be using the envelopes to add things like this, like little notebooks, little pieces of paper, little journaling cards. This one I did on the top. And you can do it after it's glued down, but it just might make it a little easier to cut it before you glue everything to the base. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. And I am just going to cut a little sliver off of here. These are also going to be covered if you want. You can cover them with decorative paper. And I'm going to just make a little indentation with my hole punch, if I can stick it in here. And I will probably put some decorative paper underneath that. I'm gonna glue this down. Because these are envelopes, they all kind of come undone, so just glue the pieces down. So that one's that, and then this one I think I will cut it on the side here. And don't worry about this because we're going to be covering this up. I'm going to show you what to do. I already pre-cut the lining, so I'm going to take the lining out. You're going to be lining each one of these. I'm not going to line this one because it's pretty thick, but most of these envelopes are flimsy, so I am going to line them with some cardstock. And you're going to be gluing down the edges here, so that's just kind of getting ahead of ourselves, but I'm going to put the lining in there. And then this one, maybe I put the lining in this one already too. And all you're doing is, when you're cutting the lining out, it should be kind of a, it doesn't have to be a super heavy duty cardstock. In fact, I would not use a heavy duty, maybe 110 pound or less. Even maybe some heavier weight paper would work. So on this one, let's see, maybe I will put it on this side. I think I might wait on this because I'm not sure where I want to cut it. So I did the left hand side. Now I'm going to work on the right hand side. See how they're already they just kind of open because we glued all the flaps down here. So this one I put some lining in. I think I'm going to leave it open on the top. And don't worry about that. That's going to be glued to the liner. And I'm going to cut this one too. And this one I'm going to cut on the side. Take the liner out of this one. You can, you know, cut these with decorative scissors if you want to. I'm going to be using lace, so it's not going to show anyway. So I'm going to line some of the edges with lace, maybe. So put that back in there. And this one, again, I'm not sure what I'm going to do. I might cut it on the top or on the side. I'm kind of thinking I might even make, I don't know. I'm not sure. So I'm going to just leave that because it's okay if you cut it later. So I'm liking the way that's coming. And then the cool thing is how this is going to kind of cascade. So we're going to have this flip here, this flip here, 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 and here, or vice versa. So that's kind of how it's going to close. And I'm going to be covering this for sure with some decorative paper, and this side as well. So when you add the liner paper, oops, I forgot to put, I have to put some lace here. So I think I'm going to use this one here. How did I do on this one? Oh, I think I have to put it up a little bit higher because this is, you don't want that to be covered. One goes here, and this one goes in the back. Okay, yeah, don't forget to put those pieces of ribbon or whatever you're going to be using to bind your journal. So when you're putting your liner pieces in here, I like to give them a little bit of space. So you're not going to make an exact measurement. So this was a little bit longer than, it was like 7 1/4. So I made the piece 7 inches just because it's easier to slip in there. And the same goes for the width. You can see that I didn't make it the exact same width. So I don't know, maybe give it, you know, 1/4 inch less than the width. And you're going to be gluing it on the inside. Now, this one doesn't matter as much because you'll see what I'm talking about when I do the other ones. Because see how you see that opening there? So you're going to want to glue it on this side as opposed to that side, to the front. So it's going to go where the opening is, so you won't see that, because once the liner's in there, then you're going to be covering this all up with some collage or some decorative paper. So I'm going to glue that one in, and I'm going to glue the other ones in off camera because you don't really need to see me gluing all this in here. I'll glue a couple of them in there. It's kind of tricky because you don't want to glue them together. The whole point is to give this some heft so it's not flimsy. Especially this one. This is really flimsy, this envelope. And to cover up whatever you need to cover up. Mostly I'm doing this one because it's flimsy. Yeah, it's just got to be careful, oops, that you don't glue everything together. My battery died, so I don't know how much you missed, but you didn't really miss much. So I just glued the cardstock to one side of the envelope, so it's open, and I glued the other liner to the just one side, so like I said, you can open it. And I'm going to do the other side. So this one's a little different because there's an opening, so you just have to glue the part that's going to be covered, that's covering the cardstock. So that's open like that. And I will be covering this with some other decorative paper, so that's going to close everything up and just leave a pocket up here. Okay. So now we're going to do this one. So that one's open as well. And then we'll do the last one here. Oops, I shouldn't have put glue all over because there's an opening. That's okay. See how I put glue on the outside there? So I'll just make sure I'm not going to be closing it because it'll glue itself. So just keep that in mind. Okay, now you can glue your envelopes to your base. And just make sure it's just the flap that you're going to be gluing down. So this one's going to go here. So it's just one piece really that you're going to be gluing down, and it's just the outside flaps here. You're not going to be gluing this together onto this, just the outside flap. So we have the left side done. See how easy that is? It looks like I said, it looks more complicated than it is, but it's not. And now we're going to do the right side. Just have to make sure all your strings are out so that you don't glue them on the opposite side. Like, you don't want this to be over here. You want everything to the outside. And now we're going to glue this one down. This is already dry almost, so I don't have to worry about that. And like I said, this is going to be covered up, so don't worry about all this mess. That it looks like a big mess, but it's going to be covered up with some paper that you're going to be choosing. You could choose vintage paper or music paper or scrapbook paper, or you can use a kit, which is what the other gals used. They were really, really pretty. To line this up, it's best to close it like that, and then put it down. And then you can go back in and seal that. So, see how that works? Pretty cool, huh? So that's your base. Now you get to decorate. Really, it's all a matter of decorating now. Okay, so I started digging through my pile of scraps because I'd much prefer to use scraps that I have, like we all have, to construct the rest of this. And so I'm going to kind of show you my thought process. I didn't think you should wait for me to like wade through all my junk before I figured out what I was going to do. So I covered up this envelope. I didn't like the way it looked with the whole scheme of things, and so I added some cardstock here, and then I'm gonna add this cute little angel, which I think is a good idea. And so that's gonna go there. I'm still going to have to find something to cover the back, but I'm just kind of going with whatever I can find in my pile and see what works. This is something I had made a long time ago, and I found it because I've been cleaning stuff out, so I thought that looked kind of cool there because of this piece. This is from an old grocery bag, and I loved it. It was such a cool bag, but it was really poorly made. It just ripped, and of course I didn't throw it away, but it's kind of a combination of paper and fabric. So I cut it, and I thought, well, this is kind of coming cool. So this is kind of deciding which direction I'm going in, because I thought I was going to do something different, and now I'm using this as a base to kind of determine what my color scheme is going to be and all that stuff. So that's going to cover that nice white spot there. And when you're cutting these pieces, you don't want to cut them all the way to the edge, because it'll start kind of being hard to fold. But at the same time, I left too much of a border there, so I pulled out my scraps, and this happened to work pretty well. It's a piece of paper, and I'm going to just go right up to the very edge. That way I don't see all the stuff that's underneath it, and just still kind of make sure that this is going to close. So I'm going to go ahead and cut that. And glue that down. And one thing I was thinking of is if you are going to be using these as signatures in a larger junk journal, you probably don't need this outer part of the ribbon to close everything up. I already did it, so I'm just going to work with it. It might be something that's a standalone, but that's just something to think about. I'm going to glue this down. And then glue this down. I just cut it with my paper cutter, which happens, I have two paper cutters. One of them has like this decal edge and the other's a straight. You know how you can get different blades for your cutter. I gotta hurry so this doesn't dry because it dries so fast. Out. Yeah, just grab scraps of your papers that you have, and don't grab too many of them because then you'll get overwhelmed. Just grab some things that catch your eye and then work with those, because it'll just make it a little bit easier, as opposed to like going through all your cardstock. And you know, don't get too hung up on a theme either. I mean, I kind of always am drawn to these colors, so just kind of worked out this way, but things will go a little bit smoother if you don't, you know, just say, oh, I really wanted this to be all about angels or Marie Antoinette or flowers or whatever, and stick with certain colors. I mean, you are going to a certain aspect, but you know, if something's working, I mean, I didn't know I was going to use this, I didn't know I was going to use that, I didn't know I was going to use that, so just grab a few of your favorite scraps of papers and images and just kind of start placing them down and see what works. Oops, that's sticking to that. I also went ahead and just glued down some music paper to the other side, so that one's kind of done. And then I chose this paper for the base. I don't like this blue showing, so what I did was, this wasn't big enough, so I thought I'd show this to you. There's a, you know, the tab here, so what I did was I drew around, and I'm going to cut that off so that when I glue it down, it'll be part of the tab. I'm going to go ahead and do that. I'm not going to glue it down just yet because I am going to cover this up with just a strip of some scrap. Again, just using the scraps. So that's going to go there, and then I can trim it if I needed to. It looks like I'm going to need to trim it a little bit more. And I'm going to cover the bottom with something here. So I think I was going to use some music paper, maybe, to go in there. And then maybe some music paper on the bottom. I'm just going to cut a strip of that. And glue that down. Still kind of shows, but it's not as bad. I could always put, I call them little paper band-aids. You can just kind of cover things up as you need to, especially if you're using really old paper. It's going to be brittle, so you're going to need to put little band-aids on it. But, you know, you can make it look artful still. And that's going to be covered up. I'm just going to trim that probably. It's going to go there. And then I'm going to do some more music paper down here. And I might wind up making a pocket, putting a pocket on top too, so. There and this here. Put it in there. So I'm going to glue this down. Just going to do half of it and then glue the other half, just so it won't dry so fast. Put this down. Might do this. Like that. Just got to keep making sure that you're not providing too much bulk, just so that everything's, you know, lays. So just keep that in mind. Like this one, because I put some new paper there, I'm just going to have to make sure I can fold it again. It's kind of stiff. But that's good because it's reinforced it, plus it's covered the ugly part there. And then I will be putting another something on here. I might just put a strip down here, kind of like what I did on one of the other ones, and make it more of a tuck spot on this side anyway. And I will open it. I might just, I don't know, I might do a slit or something here. Glue this cute little guy down. And I was going to put some lace on here as well. Looks like this might be a two-parter, unless I just finish it and show you next time. Whoop. And I'm just going to put some lace here. On this side. This. And then I thought I would put a label on one of these, maybe. Yeah, not sure. Maybe the black one. You know, these are the Tim Holtz labels. And then stamp something on it. Not sure. This one. So I'm gonna glue that down. So you can keep kind of going over it, seeing how it looks, tying everything together. You know, the different layers make a difference. I'm liking the way it's coming out. So I think I'm going to stop at this point, and I will finish this up for the next tutorial. It should be done by then. It shouldn't take too much longer, just to keep adding stuff, and I'll have things that are pre-made and ready to glue down so you can kind of see how it's done. But I hope you enjoyed that, and I hope you're safe, and that that you're being able to create to bring a little bit of happiness with everything going on in our lives. Please subscribe. I am going to be having a giveaway when I hit 10,000 subscribers, so I really appreciate all your guys' sweet comments. It was really, really nice, all of the feedback that I got last time. And click the bell icon so that you're notified every Tuesday for some Bohemian inspiration. Bye!